is 9:29, close enough. We're starting KCIM Sports Rewind a whopping 21 seconds early today, which, much to the chagrin of Jeff Blankman, who is still semi-conscious at this point.
You know, I
normally you're awake when you're here.
I am usually awake, but
I think we gotta point out that I beat Jeff in. It might have been like 10 seconds before him, but I beat Jeff in this morning.
That is worth noting as well.
Yeah, so part
Casey of that, Miners, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed one of the two of you.
Yeah, well, part of that is I was up trying to update the website, and I got another one that I'll have to update because with the weather forecast for today, we're getting game time changes already and stuff. So just for anybody that I haven't had a chance to put this on the web yet, but as I walked in, got a message that Audubon, both baseball and softball, are going varsity first tonight starting at 5 o'clock.
Not a bad decision.
Yep, the other one was ICAM Manning Baseball, and I do have this one updated on the website already. ICAM Manning Baseball is going at 4:30 varsity only today.
All right, so my advice to all teams, get it in the air today, because that wind is unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought my house was blowing down a couple of times overnight last night with the way it's whipping around. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got a text from a friend of mine who bikes on the bike trail all the time. He's out biking this morning. And I'm like, are you insane?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yes. What time was Story Hunt out?
No. Stacy Belcock, man.
No, that's who I figured, yes.
Oh, yeah, he was out on his bike, and I'm like, wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
To do it in this kind of wind, that's unreal. So, especially when you get on the bike trail, south wind, if you're heading south, if it's 20 miles per hour, it feels like 30, 35.
Oh, yeah.
So when it's 30, it's feeling more like about 40, 45, and it's all you can hear in your ears is that sound of that wind.
Now, you're okay if all you're going to do is go one way and you got the wind behind you the whole way, but the moment you turn and come back into the wind, you're going to regret going out on the bike.
Stacy's got this thing about getting miles in.
Right.
And he did, what, 6,000 miles during the COVID year.
Okay.
6,000. That's New York, LA, and back.
Right.
So, he gets his miles in no matter what the weather's in.
He's training for Ragbri.
Apparently, even though he's not planning on doing Ragbri.
Okay.
I don't think so. Anyway, let's talk about Boston Celtics. They won the NBA championship last night. Yep. No shocker, 3-1 over Dallas Mavericks. Everybody said Boston wasn't going to win the championship, but they did last night. Brad Stevens, former was it
Butler?
Butler. There you go. I about said Bradley, and I knew that wasn't right. Former Butler head coach turned Celtics head coach turned basketball president. Put together one heck of a team.
Yeah, you got to give Danny Ainge, I think, a little credit. He started the process.
He brought in Brad Stevens.
Yep, and stuff, and drafted some of the guys that they used, and then turned things over and left, and Brad moved up into the front office, and they put together a really, really salty team. I'm drawing a blank right now on his name, but the point guard that they brought in from Milwaukee,
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, no,
or Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday. What an addition he was to that team. I think an unsung guy because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum kind of steal a lot of the headlines, but I think he was a huge part of what they were able to accomplish this year. And I think a lot of people were picking Dallas when Dallas won over Minnesota simply because the West wins every year and stuff. But Boston was clearly the best team in the league all year long and went out and kind of proved it emphatically. You take away that Game 4 loss where I don't think they showed up, but they went out and kind of dominated the NBA Finals.
I think just the NBA playoffs in general.
Yeah.
And they weren't really tested besides the first series.
Yeah. They lose 3 games. The
Lost 3
playoff
games.
Series.
Yeah.
Whole
now,
playoffs run.
They did lock out because some of the teams that they played in those early rounds were missing their star, and stuff like that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they went out and still dominated those teams like you should
Still had the best record in the NBA.
Yes, absolutely.
And all of that stuff. And they just simply crushed everybody else out there. So can they repeat? That's the next question on that one. So 18th championship. We did that trivia question last week that who has won more? Of course, now it's the Celtics.
Yep.
Lakers with 17. Who had lost the most? The LA Lakers at 15.
So as a Celtics fan, have you reached out to any Laker fans of your friends of yours? And
I don't have Laker fans. Friends. Nope. If you're a Lakers fan, I'm not your friend, people.
I didn't know. Maybe you were throwing some little barbs in this morning.
I'd sooner have Packer fans. Friends, rather.
Wow, that's low.
I know.
Coming from a Viking fan, I wouldn't have imagined that.
So trivia question of the morning.
Yeah.
Let's get to that one. The Celtics, of course, now 18 NBA championships. They trail only 2 other franchises in major sports on world championships. Going to name those 2 teams.
Okay, Yankees.
Yeah, that's the gimme one.
Yeah.
27.
The only one that comes to mind is the Yankees.
Yeah.
The other one's a little bit harder to come by.
Is it a hockey one?
It is a hockey one.
Okay.
Any have a guess?
I'd say like the Blackhawks or something like that.
Yeah, no.
Not the Blackhawks.
I don't think it's the Red Wings, right?
Nope, not the Red Wings.
It's got to be probably the Rangers or Islanders or
No.
Boston.
Nope.
Really?
See, my only other guess would be the LA Kings or something like that.
Yeah, well, they
No.
don't even. Yeah, Edmonton,
You guys are not even in the right country.
Edmonton.
No.
No, Toronto.
No.
Calgary?
No.
Wow. Vancouver.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Vancouver is the Canadians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vancouver. Okay.
There you go.
I was going to say, I'm starting to run out of NHL teams from Canada.
If you name them all, eventually you'll get the correct answer.
Eventually one.
Yankees with 27, Canadians with 24, and the Boston Celtics with 18. There you go. There's the most championships won. So there's our trivia question of the day. We didn't want to hold on to that one. Also, the one topic I kind of pulled out from just national sports, the Big 12. They are looking at exploring a name rights partnership for their conference, not just like parts of their conference or something like that. They're thinking of naming it the All-State 12, which to me doesn't even scream sports anymore. So, and the 12, your league is 16.
Yeah,
it's probably going to expand from there. So, I mean, All-State 12, when you've got 16 teams, none of that makes sense to me.
No, especially the number part. It's all about money, and that's all college athletics is about anymore. And it's not just the players wanting money. It's the schools that have been soaking in all the money for a long, long time. That's all it's about. It's.
At what point do you draw the line with some of the sponsorships and the naming rights and all that?
Well, they're talking about now you're going to be able to have logos out on the field and all of those kind of things. And
Which I don't have a big problem with.
Right, yeah. But it's all about generating the revenue. And a lot of it is now because they're going to have to pay the players. They're going to try and move the NIL stuff in-house. And you look at the lawsuits that have won, what was it, $13 billion or something like that the school's got to come up with to pay back. And stuff like that. So it's all about money. It's all about generating revenue. It's not about the things that it was supposed to be about when it was created. It's just all about revenue. So
how many years before you think they just flat out schools are directly paying players as employees?
Within 2 years, I think.
You think 2 years? Casey?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if it's not happening now.
Yeah. And anybody that wants to yell about NIL, I've said this before. The moment Ryan Day at Ohio State came out, the minute that NIL was approved and allowed, and he said it's going to cost us $13 million to keep our roster together. If you don't think money was flowing prior to NIL, you haven't been paying attention, because the way he knew it was $13 million to keep his roster together, Ryan Day knew exactly what the Ohio State program was already paying, or their boosters were already paying to keep the roster that they had.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at to So
well, you listen to podcasts with former college players and former college coaches. They're like, well, I had to offer this kid $500,000 just to come take a visit. You know, he wasn't going to come play for me if I wasn't going to give him money. You know?
Yeah, and it's just worse now because you're hearing about it, and it's worse because I do think the money probably has increased some. I mean, it's sad when you got football players that are making $1.5 million before they've even stepped on the field as a college player.
What NIL was essentially designed to do was like what we saw with Caitlin Clark, where she had Nike and Gatorade and all those big companies. Well, now it's
a recruiting tool.
Yeah, now it's a recruiting tool, and schools are, hey, we'll offer you $1 million to come play for us. Oh, well, Ohio State's offering me $2 million. Can you bump that up? They're like, well, yeah, sure.
It's just going to be a bidding war wherever you go.
And now, the tampering's always existed, but it's worse now. I remember Matt Rule, at the Nebraska spring games, he goes, I have players come in every day and show me text messages from other coaches on other programs saying this is what we'll pay for you to come play for us. He goes, it's happening every day at every moment.
Yeah, so it's it almost wants to turn you off as a fan. But once the games start on the field, then you're all for your team. You're still a fan of that uniform, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I'll never change. I'll always be a fan, even if Alan Honlos just sent me a text and said it cost $13 to keep Nebraska's roster together. But I will never change. I will love the Huskers until
at least $7-8 of that's going to go to the starting quarterback, right?
Yes,
$7-8.
$7-8.
I would say probably $12.50 is going to the starting quarterback, so it's okay.
That is funny. Did you see the clip of Caitlin Clark just getting absolutely hammered by Angel Reese the other day?
No, I did not.
I did.
Going in for a layup, and man, she about took her head off.
Yeah, it was a vicious hit. I don't want to act like it wasn't, but I do legitimately think she was going for the ball and missed the ball, and definitely got her in the head, and it should have been upgraded to a flagrant. I'm not saying that, but I think it was a basketball play. I do think it was a basketball play. She was trying to block the shot. It's not like she was, I don't think anyway, it didn't look to me like she was legitimately just trying to hit her in the head.
I think just with the force that it was delivered, that was the flagrant foul that should have been called on that play. I don't think it was unintentional. I think if it had been another player, if it hadn't been Caitlin Clark driving in there, maybe she doesn't go as hard.
Right.
But if it was Caitlin Clark, she knows it, and she's going to say, "Oh, if I'm on a foul, I'm going to make it worthwhile."
But if you're watching, you've seen Angel Reese chuck to the floor. You've seen Cameron Brink chuck to the floor. I mean, the WNBA game has been physical, and I think now that public that hadn't been paying attention to the WNBA is now watching it. I think people are freaking out because they didn't realize how physical this league had been for years before this group of rookies come in. And I will say that I think Caitlin Clark is probably getting a little extra, and that's because she's the name and stuff. Gino Auriemma said it, I think, right. I watched an interview with him, and he said that he feels sorry for Caitlin Clark because her legion of fans is what caused this, because all they did was talk about how she was going to come in and dominate this league that's the best players in the world, and they put a target on her back, and every time she gets bumped, they lose their mind, which just makes it worse.
Yeah, it's not Caitlin Clark's fault.
Right, it's not Caitlin Clark's fault at all.
She's never spouted off about anything, as far as I know.
Right, yeah. I mean, she's commented about some of the cheap shots that she's gotten, and everybody would. I totally agree with her, absolutely, but it's everything that anybody else does. Her legion of fans that had never paid attention to basketball before Caitlin Clark lose their mind because they don't understand, what the game was really like prior to this.
And everybody lost their collective mind when she was left off the Olympic team. Yes. I think that's the best thing that ever happened to Caitlin Clark. Probably is, get a break from basketball. I mean, she went right from the college season to the WNBA to all this attention. It's like maybe a little break would be a good thing right now. Let those other players have their highlight. Caitlin's going to be there in a few years to win plenty of gold medals if she wants to.
Well, I mean, right now she's been in the headlines for really since the college basketball season started.
Yeah.
You go from college basketball, and now you go to the, like John said, to the WNBA and potentially the Olympic team. I mean, that's almost a whole year of nonstop Caitlin Clark. Everybody being in her face.
She's great. She's a great athlete, but how much can your body take?
That, and I think of it on a social media and as as a person. When she's not having to play the Olympics, she can lie low, not have to do much. And I think a lot of this heat that she's taking right now will kind of die off because people will be like. Okay.
NBC's wants her on the Olympic coverage.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Think of her commenting on Diana Taurasi and some of these players.
Yeah.
And she would be nothing but gracious, I'm sure. But when she'll love her go, there's the old lady going in for a basket. Just throw some little smack down at her.
I think that if she got a chance to play with the Olympic players,
she would. Yeah, you're not going to pass that down.
No, what I'm saying, though, is that I think the tenuous relationship that some of them probably have with her now would probably change because they would get to know her, and stuff. I feel for her because, she's been in the media spotlight now for so long with no break. That's where I agree with KC. I think the fact that she didn't make it is going to allow just her body to get some rest, but it's going to allow her to disappear for a little while and get away. I mean, whether or not and I'm not saying she's lying. She says she doesn't pay any attention to social media, and she shut down her pages for the most part because of all of the attention. But it's hard to get away from it, where every day you wake up and you got cameras in your face and all of those kind of things. So I think for her not making it, I think one, it's going to push her to become even better and more physical and stronger, which is going to help her, and getting an off season to be able to do that is going to be beneficial. Number two, it's going to allow her to get out of the media for a little while, which I think is going to benefit her. And
Think about Michael Jordan. If he had social media back in the day, I mean, he never would have gotten a break.
No.
And Michael Jordan disappeared in the offseason. You didn't hear about him in the offseason.
Unless you were in the casino at 2 a.m.
It just can't be. It can't be healthy, with all the with having to worry about all that stuff, and then throwing basketball on top of it. It's going to be good for her to just have to lay low.
Mental health wise, perfect for her.
And I think too that I have people kind of give me a hard time sometimes that they think I'm critical of her. I have a lot of respect for Caitlin Clark. She already reached out to Juju Smith and to Juju Smith's coach out at USC and said, hey, she's going to be going through this now for the next 2 or 3 years, depending on how long she stays in college. Anytime you need to reach out to me as a coach or as a player to kind of figure out how to deal with all of this media scrutiny and all of the fans and everything you're going to have to put up with, feel free to reach out. I'm here, as kind of a bridge to whatever you need and stuff. And that says a lot about the character of her and stuff like that. So
they should just put Lisa Bluter on contract as a consultant on how to handle that situation, because I thought she did a beautiful job.
Well, if you listen to the legion of Caitlin Clark fans out there, Lisa Bluter's the next head coach of the Indiana Fever anyway. So
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
So.
Let's talk local sports. Of course, the Audubon break up the Wheelers. 13 in a row for their softball
please
team.
Don't break them up.
No, they're playing great.
Everybody else is saying that, man. They're on a fire right now.
They are.
And they have been for weeks.
Yeah, playing really well. Won 13 in a row. Beat a ranked team the other night, Friday, I think it was, that you had that game against I-35 that went
15 innings.
15 innings, yep. And then, and what a game. It wasn't like it was a 17-16, 15 inning game.
No, it was a 2-1 finish.
Yeah, and then last night went down.
If you're going to go 15, that's the best game to broadcast.
It is.
Not a 20 to 21.
I mean, I think combined, there was probably combined 30 strikeouts, but Audubon's pitcher had 23 of them.
Yep.
So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Riley Miller has been fantastic this year, and so the defense really has been behind her. And
what is the key? I mean, how did they put together 13 wins in a row? I don't know if we've had a team that's done that very often at all.
No, I wouldn't say that it's always because of the offense. I think they get clutch hits and key hits when they need them, but it's not like they're going out and scoring, 15 runs a game. I think even Andy Schwery said in my interview with her last week that, they've had some games where they've jumped up 5 or 6 to nothing in the first inning, and then they end up winning like 7-5 or 6-4 or something like that. She's like, one time I kind of like one of those games where you can sit back and go, whew, in the third inning and just relax. But they've found ways, and I'll let Casey talk about that Interstate 35 win here the other day. But last night went to Missouri Valley, who was ranked above them overall in the rankings, but sitting a half game behind them in the conference race. They needed that win to stay in first place in the league, and you get a 2-run home run from Jordan Porsche to start the game in the first inning. They had another run later in the game, and they go on to win it 3-0, against a team that had beaten them earlier in the year. And you and I talked a little bit, Casey, about it last night on the phone. They're sitting in really good shape now that they can't, not that they can relax and not go out and take care of business, but you're 1-1 against Missouri Valley in the league, but you've got a 1.5 game lead on them now in the division and 2-game lead on them in the loss column. You swept Trainer, you swept Riverside, and you're 1-0 against Logan, who you host tonight. And those are all of the teams that are chasing you right now in the conference. A win tonight against Logan, and they put themselves
in very good position.
Very, very good position, even if they lose one at some point here to win
at least
the league.
To share.
Yeah,
at least to share. You'd think at this point in the season, with how closely we're winding down everything, and the I-35 was same situation. I mean, another ranked team that was ranked ahead of them.
Yep.
They play. I-35 plays in a tough conference. They came in 599 in that game, but they play in a tough conference. And it was a great ball game. I mean, we started a little before 7 o'clock, and I think I texted Jeff at at 8 or so.
It wasn't even 8 o'clock. It was like 7:45.
Yeah, it was like 7:45, and I'm going into the 6th inning. I'm like, wow, we're flying through.
Yeah.
It was a great
Little
game.
did you know, you weren't even halfway there.
I'm like, I was like, oh, we're gonna get out of here early. I'm gonna go home, get stuff typed up, go to bed at a decent time tonight. And
I was thinking the same thing when I got the text from him, because I was in the 3rd and I started before him with the game I was broadcasting, and he was already in going into the 6th like 45 minutes after he started. And I'm sitting here in my mind going, this could be a decent night for us. Both of us may get home at a pretty good time and stuff. And then I'm driving home, and he's only in like the 9th.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now, does this season meeting their expectations or exceeding their expectations?
I would say exceeding right now.
I would say so. But I will say this: I think Coach Schwery knew the potential that they had going into the season. I don't know if the media did or the voters did, but I do remember going down for media day, and her and I had kind of a conversation. I covered her when she played at ICAM Manning. If anybody doesn't know, she's Andy Newley, when she played at ICAM Manning, and now Andy Schwery. But she told me, she's like, Jeff, I don't have a weak spot in the field. I don't have a weak spot in the lineup, and in a lot of these places, I'm too deep at a lot of the places where I could put somebody in and not drop off. But you take the fact that Exiro Kern-Kimballton was a ranked team and really, really good a year ago and brought back a lot, and then Audubon was a really, really good team last year that brought back a lot, and you put those two together, and the toughest thing was probably having to tell kids that started a year ago on a really good team and maybe had a good season that they didn't earn a starting job this year, because you put two teams together that are bringing back, about 7-8 starters from last year, and you're going to have kids that aren't going to be starting this year that are good ball players and stuff. But I think the kids bought in, and they're doing the things they need to do, and they understand their roles, and they're going out and executing them, and they don't panic when it's late in games.
No, I would say they exceeded, just because you look at Missouri Valley, who historically is a very good softball program. Logan and Trainer. The three teams that come to mind at top of that conference, they returned a lot of girls from last year as well.
Right.
And so I thought at worst, Audubon was going to be 4th in the conference, but to be 2-0 against Trainer, 1-1 against Missouri Valley, and 1-0 against Logan as of right now, and in first place of the conference, I had winning 13 straight games, albeit in the process of that, I was like, I wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah, that sweep over Trainer is really impressive when you look at. I did that game when they hosted them last week and beat them for the second time this year. Trainer was 29-6. Against Audubon.
Trainer's always good.
And for Audubon, you could see the emotion when Taryn Peterson made the catch at shortstop in front of second base as the final out of the inning. Jeff Storyhan got a great picture of it from where he was at, and just the expression on those girls' face. They knew what that win meant, and not just for conference races, what it meant to go out and beat a Trainer program that's traditionally really strong, a program that makes state on quite a regular basis, and then to come back and do it the way they did. The reason why I say they don't panic, down going into the bottom half of the 6th inning, and they go out and score enough runs to take the lead, get a couple insurance runs, and then go out and get a 1-2-3 against Trainer in the 7th inning.
We've seen teams have terrific regular seasons and fall short of the state tournament. What do you see in the future for this team in the playoffs?
They got potential to make the state tournament. It's just going to depend on that draw, because right now they came into this week ranked 10th.
Yep.
And if you kind of just base
Isn't
it off
lacking
of
a little respect, 10th, and they're 13 wins in a row.
They'll move up after this, but they were preseason unranked, and if you follow the rankings, unless you got a team that's really losing a lot, they don't fall much, and stuff. It's based off of history and tradition as much as it is, what a team has accomplished this year and stuff. So once you're ranked, it's hard to fall. But I think you'll see Audubon jump into the top 8, and if they can stay there, that's huge. And the reason I say that is I respect the Union a lot for how they go out and they go, okay, here's who we have as our top 8. We're going to try and place these teams in regions where the top 8 aren't having to square off against each other, and stuff. You have it sometimes. I can remember in football several years ago when Heelan dropped down to 3A. They were number 1 and Harlan was number 2, and they met in the quarterfinals before the Dome, and everybody's kind of like, what?
Yeah. Why is this happening?
This is the state championship game.
Happened in basketball when OABCIG Cooper DeJean's senior year. Yeah, they've had to play Boyden Hall Rock Valley to go to state, and that was 1 and 2.
1 and 2. And stuff. You don't find that on the girls' side of things, and I have a lot of respect. So if they can get into top 8. They won't have to play another top 8 team in that regional final to go to state. If they don't get into top 8, then,
I would imagine probably going to have to see Missouri Valley down the road again.
Possibly.
I would just imagine, potentially going to have to see Missouri Valley down the road again if it's the game to go to state or if it's, in your region. But
either that or going to have to travel. One of them's going to have to travel because in Casey's right. You look at location and you look at where everybody is. There's not a lot of 2A schools around them. So, Missouri Valley's kind of that one that's in their neighborhood.
So 13 in a row here for the Audubon girls. We got to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more KCIM Sports Rewind coming up.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind with Casey Miners, our Assistant Sports Director, Jeff Blankman, Sports Director, and I'm hanging out here as well, talking for the half hour. My podcast with Aaron Koiker out right now with Must Know People. Aaron gave me his cool stadiums and his most overrated stadiums that he ever played in his career. It's an interesting conversation going on there. What would you guess most overrated stadium?
You told us last week. Luckily, it was Michigan, the big house.
It was the big house, yeah. That was a fun conversation to have when he talked about that. And Wisconsin.
Yeah. Jump around.
The jump around.
I was, yeah.
You said probably the worst fans you've ever been around.
Yeah, and I've been around some bad ones. Texas fans, and stuff when they came to Lincoln, 20 years ago. But let's just say that as much as I like the stadium and the jump around was really cool, I will never attend a game out in Wisconsin
as a visiting
fan. Which I'll never be a Wisconsin fan. So
if Nebraska and Wisconsin ever merge, I'm just saying, don't count it out.
Yeah, no,
we can have the All-State 12 as a conference. You never know. Let's talk rest of baseball, softball. Who's hot right now and who's not?
I want to give a shout out Glidden Ralston softball. I know they lost last night 4-2, but we had talked to Coach Sean Bergmeyer last week. They had won 3 in a row and we're playing some good softball. Coon Rapids Bayard baseball, is starting to come on. They're leading the conference right now. It'll be interesting to see. They've got some tough ones coming up. West Marshall, I think, ranked number 1 in 2A, and they'll be hosting them. So that'll be kind of a good barometer of maybe where they're at right now and stuff like that. But off top of your head, who else are you thinking playing well right now?
Kemper split a couple varsity doubleheaders. They're sitting under 500 in baseball, but I think 7-5 in the Hawkeye 10, right in the middle of the pack. I mean, they played a really tough schedule this year.
Yep.
Last week we said it was make or break it week. How was it for them?
They beat Lewis Central, but then they ended up falling a heartbreaker to Harlan.
Yep.
But
twice this year that they lost to Harlan late.
That's happened this year. And kind of the same thing happened with them in their loss to Shenandoah, too. Yeah. Shenandoah scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th.
2-3 last week?
I can't quite remember.
I was thinking, I think they split with Lewis Central, split with Creston. And then,
they only played Lewis Central once.
That's right. Softball played the doubleheader. Yeah. So maybe ended up going 2-2 on the week. But that kind of knocked them out probably of a chance for the Hawkeye 10 Conference Championship, I would imagine.
But again, a whole different story when it comes to the playoffs for Kemper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you never count them or Coon out come playoff time. Never.
I would imagine both of them potentially going to have to travel. I would imagine they might host, the first round game, but then probably going to have to travel after that because both teams have been playing up and down just honestly, this year so far.
Yeah.
They're not the typical, we're going to host every game until we get to the chance to go to state game, the sub-state final. And
even John Waddles talked about that Kuhn, with their record this year, and depending on how they do, coming up here over the next 10 days to 14 days may not. And when was the last time that Kuhn didn't host? And, we like it when they host, when our local teams host, for one, like when Kuhn hosted a lot of times, most of the years, not all of the years, but most of the years, you had 4 local teams.
Yeah, it was a doubleheader featuring all of our teams.
Yeah, which was tough in a way because you knew you were going to lose teams early, but it also, you knew that you were going to be able to cover a bunch of teams. Because if you do a doubleheader and all 4 teams are local teams, that means you're covering 4 teams in one night locally, which I like to be able to do it. Kemper's hosted for a long time and stuff, but like Casey said, that where they're at record-wise, there's a chance they may not get to. So,
how about softball? Anybody else?
Besides Audubon, we have a lot of teams that are. Like you mentioned, Glidden's playing pretty good right now. SEC picked up their first win last night, which is good for them.
Congratulations to them. Interesting call last night, and I got to find out exactly what the rule is, because I got kind of different ideas from different people that are supposed to be in the know. So I'm up there last night, and Olivia Toms just hits a shot, over the center field fence for a 3-run home run, and one of her teammates touched her about 2 feet before home plate, and the home plate umpire called her out and stuff. So she gets credited with a triple on that. But other people that I talked to say that that's not a rule. But the home plate umpire said that it was. So I'm going to have to get a hold of the girls' union and find out, because Olivia Toms, I don't know. I don't want to say robbed, or anything like that, because if it's the rule, it's the rule.
Yeah, but we don't technically know the rule.
We don't know the rule, but it's interesting when you talk to people.
Never seen a call like that.
I've never seen a call like that before.
I would assume, like aiding the runner, where it's like you're trying to help them up or something. But come on, there was just kind of a little celebratory thing before she hit the plate.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if they aid you, but how are they aiding you when you've already hit the home run? And all you're doing is you're running down the third base line, you're a foot from home plate. I don't think that's going to aid you in getting to the plate.
And the ball was over the fence, correct?
Yes, the ball was over the fence, so it wasn't an inside the Parker.
So it would take a lot of nerve for a team to go, oh no, that's interference, she's got to be called out. You're like, okay, come on.
Right.
She hit the home run.
Yep.
Let them play it out.
Yep, absolutely. So I do want to reach out to the girls' union today and kind of get what exactly that rule is, and if it was accurate last night. But congrats to them picking up their win last night. And then I do want to give a shout out. I think I mentioned this maybe last week. Arweva lost another tight one last night on the road, 2-1.
Games.
They're 1-6 now on the year. But if you look, they've had a lot of 1- and 2-run losses against some of the top teams in the league. It's not that they haven't had a game or two where they've struggled a little bit, but for the most part, they're playing everybody really, really well. And Amber Regeller's pitching extremely well. She's not walking anybody and stuff like that. So, do want to give them a shout out, even though they aren't picking up the W's. So, as I said in my sportscaster, I think, something to the nature of, we cover teams whether they're winning or not. There are some people out there that only jump on bandwagons when they're doing well. But,
I'm not going to go down that road. You can do it.
That's the extended edition of Rewind.
Yes.
We will not air here on KCIM.
So,
all right. So that's going to be. Give us a quick peek ahead this week. What's going on, and what are you guys looking forward to?
Lots of games, depending on weather.
Brilliant answer.
Depending on weather. We'll have games every night this week, and starting with, Casey gets to run down to Atlantic tonight for Kemper softball, and I've got ESAC and Carroll softball, and hopefully the weather will hold out. So
last time I saw him, that was Bennett Blake right across the street, man.
He
so
does.
You can go play some Frisbee with him
Absolutely.
down there.
Yeah. I miss Bennett.
I miss the Frisbee Snapchats we used to get. He used to try to throw this like whammo Frisbee ring thing from the baseball stadiums to his house across the street.
Right, yeah.
He never did it.
No.
Not as far as I know.
No, and I miss the which gym am I in now or which field that I am now snaps that he would send out. I just miss Bennett being in the business, I'll tell you that.
A shout out to Bennett Blake before we get off the air here.
Yes.
So when is the playoff pairings announced?
I'm figuring, Casey and I talked about this next week, I'm figuring they've got to be out by late next week, because if the playoffs start July the 6th, you pretty much, the end of next week is kind of you're into the 4th of July and then you're into the playoffs. So they pretty much better have the playoff pairings out. Softball starts July 6th and baseball starts July 8th. So I would say sometime next week, maybe softball early to mid next week and baseball late next week would probably be pretty close to when they should be out.
All right. So, it's getting really close to that time. You'd think you want to give schools at least a week to know where they're going.
Well, they've got a plan to get everybody there to help work.
They didn't for basketball.
No, they didn't for basketball. A lot of people were upset.
5 days or something like that.
Wow.
So,
well, don't be shocked if it winds up doing that again. So, All right, that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week. Once again, here on KCIM. Catch a podcast available on the website and the mobile app in moments.